it's important to be in a conversation about the truth with people that have some experience with it, so that when things like this come up, you can get it clarified. One of the things that is said about this teaching in a lot of the traditions is it's the teaching of no self. And it's considered to be essential to experience the truth of no self, that there is no self. In the invitation by Mooji that we just listened to, he says this is your true self. It's a language issue, right? Because earlier in the invitation, he said that this self is not personal. Not personal. So that's where there's no self. It's not personal. You could say it's what you are, not who you are. Right? It's what you are, not who you are. So it's a language thing. But what he means when he says that is that it's your true nature. It is the reality of your identity. It is what you actually are. And this identity that you actually are is alive. It's alive. And the purpose of the invitation is the same as the purpose of practicing meditation. It's to recognize that unborn self. It's to recognize this awareness that's never not here. It's to recognize this awareness that never changes, doesn't get old, doesn't get sick, doesn't need anything, doesn't want anything, isn't going anywhere, didn't come from anywhere, is already peaceful, is already content, is already satisfied. That's its nature. It's not the nature of a self, it's the nature of the awareness. It's the nature of the awareness itself. It's always available. So, when people hear about meditation, because we live in a world right now where everything has got to be scalable and everything has got to be sellable, right? That's why meditation, the way I talk about it here, is not the same as you will hear in the mainstream, right? Why? Because what we're talking about here is not sellable. It's not something that people can buy and get right away, and therefore it's not sellable, right? Not only that, but it requires that people engage with a process that's going to be challenging. It requires that people engage with a process that can easily be confusing. It involves a lot of paradox. It involves a process that requires a teaching and a teacher. And so for most people, when they hear the word meditation, what they think it is, right, is this woo-woo thing. What they think it is flower people and people with sheets on their heads, and Maharishis and gurus and India and China and all that jazz. They think that's what it is. But, most people think that's a fool's gold. The common everyday person thinks that's fool's gold. Why would you get involved in that and waste your time on that? If that was so powerful, if that was so true, then how come that hasn't taken over the world? You know what I mean? So this is the way it's commonly understood. And so in a meditation class, I'm sure one of the reasons that a lot of people don't come to this class, when the Y is at full capacity, there's usually around 22,000 members, right? So the reason that such a small percentage of people show up in this class is because they already know what meditation is and they don't need it. That's why they're not coming. They already know. If they look into this room and they see us sitting here, they say, those people are wasting their time. That's not going to get you anywhere. What's going to get you somewhere is what makes money, right? So that's the reality that we're dealing with here, and it is, when you find out what meditation really is, it really presents you with a confront. This is interesting. When you find out what meditation really is, it presents you with a confront, because what it does is it introduces you to the possibility that you're not who you thought you were. That's a confront. I've given all my, I remember back in my own process that when there were times when I felt that if I were to really go for this, if I were to really accept this and really do what it takes to realize this consistently in my life, I would have to give up all the shit that I like. That's what I thought, you know? I'd have to give up all these things that I like doing, and I don't want to give that stuff up, and so, you know, I guess it's not for me. But that's not true. That's not true. You don't have to change at all. You don't have to give anything up in order to experience the truth. In fact, the reality of it is you're already experiencing the truth. You know, I mean, if you listen to the invitation, one of the things that he's pointing to is the fact that this is already the case. This is not something that's starting to happen. It's something that's always been happening. What started to happen, he says in the beginning of the invitation, you don't have to imagine this, right? The way you imagined who you are. You know, you imagined who you are. You have to be imagining who you are because it's not real, you know? You've got to be imagining it. You imagine it based on the voice in your head, a thought activity that's constantly going on. It's very important for you to understand. The reason why we move attention from the thinking activity to following the breath, to being aware of the body breathing, is because once you do that, the thought activity is the generator of your identity. It's causing who you think you are. How does it cause who you think you are? By thinking. That's how it causes who you think you are, by thinking. It causes who you think you are by having thoughts occur in your mind as if you're the thinker. Having thoughts occur in your mind as if you are this body, you are this person, and you are separate from the rest of the world. That's a thought. You understand? That's a thought. It's not just a thought, but the thought infers that somebody's thinking the thought. It can't produce any reality of a person thinking the thought because there is no such thing. That's the no self. There is no such thing. And yet you're here. You could say, well, wait a minute. If there's no self, what's here? I'm here. What is this that's here? Okay? And what it is that's here is this awareness that has no form, has no shape, never changes, doesn't get old, doesn't get sick, doesn't worry, isn't suffering, isn't insisting that things be different, right? I mean, the source of suffering, this is like the most fundamental truth. Human beings experience suffering in the condition they're in. That's what the Buddha said, life is suffering. He was referring to the condition that human beings are in. Human beings experience suffering in the condition they're in. And so what is possible is to come to recognize that there is an experience that you're always having that's not a condition. There's an unconditioned experience that is always occurring. The experience that's being experienced is not being experienced by a person, it's being experienced by itself, right? When he's doing the invitation, how do you recognize your true nature? It's your true nature recognizing itself. You can't recognize your true nature as if you're separate from it because you're it, right? So when you make contact with the truth, you're recognizing yourself, and the you that's recognizing yourself is the awareness aware of itself. Once you get that, if you get that clearly and you recognize it as the truth, your life becomes about practicing staying awake. Your life becomes about practicing staying aware of being the awareness that you are, so that the thinking activity that is causing the suffering loses its hold on you. That's what this is all about. You know, coming out of the ignorance, coming out of the conditioning, and starting to experience what's always available. You know, one of the things that he says in the invitation has to do with the idea that there is no, come to empty. Oh, you're empty. What you are is empty. He says what you are is empty. The awareness is empty. What does he mean by that, right? He means that in the Heart Sutra, one of the things that's said in the Heart Sutra is emptiness is form and form is emptiness. What they're saying is that which is empty is awareness, and the awareness is permeated with form. But the awareness and the form are the same thing. They're not separate from one another. And so a lot of the teachings, in the Zen approach to this, they often talk about beginner's mind. What's a beginner's mind? A beginner's mind is a mind in which you don't already know. You see what I'm saying? If you already know and you come across this, you're going to compare what you know to this, right? It's going to become in conflict with what you think you know because of how different it is and how hard it is to believe that it's true. How hard it is to believe that it's true that all the time in my life, I have everything that I've always wanted and always needed available to me all the time. That's hard to believe. That's such an incredible thing to be true. And if you look at that as it compares to the conditioning, if you look at that as it compares to what you already know, it doesn't make sense, does it? No, it doesn't fit what you already know. That's why they say beginner's mind. Don't bring to this what you think you know. It won't work here. The other way they talk about it is they say the not knowing mind, the don't know mind. The awareness is a don't know mind. It's an empty mind. It's available to see things like a mirror reflects things. It's not talking about it. It's not judging and evaluating it. It's simply being aware of it. And part of what it's being aware of is the thought process. But now, when you're being aware, as the awareness being aware, you don't identify with the thought process. It's just part of what's happening. But you're not tuned into it like it's telling you the truth. It's such a big discovery. It's such a big deal to realize the voice in your head has not been telling you the truth. It can't tell you the truth. It can only tell you an interpretation of what's happening based on your conditioning, which is not the truth. And the difference between that and what's happening is where conflict is. The difference between that and what's happening is where suffering occurs. The fact that as we go through our lives, there's this process going on all the time in which what's happening, keeps changing, keeps being impermanent, right? Keeps changing. The configuration of reality keeps changing all the time. And as that's occurring, the state of mind, the condition we're in, which is a survival process, is always looking at what's coming at it in terms of, is it going to kill me or not? Is it a threat or not? Is it what I want or not? Is it something that I don't like? Is it something that is a waste of my time? Is it something that's not going to give me the things that I want that I think will make me happy? That's the process that's going on all the time, and it's creating suffering all the time because you're always looking at what's happening and comparing it to what you think. And you don't know it. You don't know you're doing that. You think that what you think is true. You think that what you think is a factual reality, that you're using this truth and comparing this truth to what's happening, and when it doesn't fit what's happening, you resist and reject what's happening. Because when you're identified with the mental state and the mental activity, there's an unquestioned belief that it's the truth. Isn't it? I mean, this is the heart of the matter, that people are walking around with this process going on in their mind that's telling them that you know what's going on, you know how things work, you know how people should be, you know how you should be, you know how life should be, right? And when it's not that way, you resist it and you reject it and you struggle with it and you cope with it, but you're not going to accept it. And you suffer. You suffer. And that will never work out. You will never succeed. That's the thing that amazes me. People can go on for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years struggling, coping, trying. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I should try and learn more. Maybe if I learn more, I'll find the answer. And if I get the answer, then my life will work. Even though I thought I got the answer 100,000 times and my life still doesn't work, but maybe it's still out there somewhere, right? That's insane. That's insane. Especially when you come across this teaching and these practices that indicate to you that if you just slow down and be quiet and sit still and allow yourself to pay attention. Allow yourself to actually look at what's actually happening, that you can notice that there is a way to be free, happy, satisfied, and complete with your life. It's available at all times. In fact, not only is it available at all times, but you're it. You are the truth. You are the truth and the way. You are the answer. And the experience of your true nature, which is available at all times, makes available to you what you want more than anything else in your life. So even if you hear this, and even if it sounds possible, even if you hear that as it sounds possible, and the implications of it are attractive to you, right? Even if that's enough for you to pursue it and to continue to practice meditation with the idea that the teachings tell me and the teacher tells me, if I stay with this, if I persist, if I'm diligent, if I have strong determination, eventually that which I am hoping is true, that which I have faith in is true, will actually make itself known to me. Since the truth is true, it's a matter of you making yourself available for it to come to you. You're not going to go to it. You don't have to go to it because you can't get any closer to it than you are now. That's what he said in the invitation, you know. You can't get any closer to the experience you're experiencing now, can you? No, you can't get any closer to it because you are the experience you're experiencing now. You're not a thought about it, you know. It didn't happen yesterday. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's happening now all the time. And it's fulfilled. You know, your life as a human being is already fulfilled. It was fulfilled when you took your first breath. That's the thing, is that, you know, most people turn their back on the most precious, sacred experience that's possible. And that's the experience you're having all the time. People turn their back on the most sacred, precious experience that's possible. It doesn't show up. It doesn't mean anything to anybody, you know, because they figure, well, life is about what I can get, not what I already have. Life is about the pursuit of happiness, not experiencing being happy. Right? What good is knowing about the pursuit of happiness if it's only a pursuit? Right? You're guaranteed the right to pursue happiness, but you're not guaranteed the right to be happy. You're just guaranteed the right to try and get happy, right? And that will put you on the treadmill. That will put you on the gerbil wheel, right? The pursuit of happiness. Because then you look around and you figure, well, somebody must know more than I do. I mean, you know, there have been people around for a long, long time here, and on TV they tell me the happiness can be found by getting that car. You know, they tell me on TV happiness can be found by, you know, taking this trip, getting this car, you know, buying gold bars instead of risking my money, you know. People look at television like a source of information. It's worse than your mind. It's worse than your mind. It's telling you more bullshit than your mind tells you. And if you make yourself available to it and you watch as if you can depend on it, you'll be a lamb being led to slaughter. That's what you'll be, right? You know, I was talking to my wife about this the other day. We watch the news as if the news is news, but it's not. It's a show. You understand? The news that you watch on TV is a show. They have commercials that are paying time for that news to present a show to you. That's why they're not just going to talk about what's happening in Israel. No. That wouldn't be a good enough show. Let's interview somebody that had their son's or their daughter's head chopped off. Let's interview them. Then we'll beat the other station, you know? And then you switch to the other station. Oh, we got a whole family that got slaughtered. We can beat you with that one, right? That's not news. That's horrific. That's insane. To be interested in looking at that kind of suffering close up is insane. But it's presenting to you as if it's news. It's newsworthy. You know, we're concerned about your being informed, so we want you to be informed. So we want to show you, you know, this ugly shit that's going on all over the world. That's not news. That's torture. Right? That's psychological torture. Right? But this is all only possible because of the state of mind that people are in, isn't it?
You know, if you're in a state of mind where you think information will give you power, you know, I want to find out what's going on so I know, so I can make the right decisions, so I can make the right choices. You know, they had on TV now a survey. How many people are on the side of the Israelis and how many people are on the side of the Palestinians? How insane are we going to get? You know, as soon as something happens like this that's an atrocity, we turn it into a baseball game. That's insane. That's insane. So if there's one thing that should motivate you to practice meditation and deepen your understanding of these teachings, it's the process of going sane. It's the process of waking up and coming out of a condition in which there's nothing that is in front of you in your future but suffering. Nothing in front of you in your future but suffering. And it's going to get worse. And the worst thing possible is going to happen, your death. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. One of the things that my teacher said the other day was very interesting. He said, until you're clear about impermanence, you're not ready. Until you're really clear that this life that you're living is a very temporary situation. You don't have time to play games. You don't have time here to mess around. Your death is coming faster than you realize, right? And unless you're willing to face that, unless you're willing to deal with the truth about the temporary reality that a human life is, unless you're ready to understand what impermanence implies. That's why the Buddha left the palace. Because when he realized that this experience that he was having was going to come to an end, and before that there was going to be sickness, death, there was going to be sickness, old age, and death, and then it's going to end. You know, it's like my teacher said, an analogy for life is like you're in a rowboat rowing out to the middle of the lake, knowing that you can't go back, and there's a leak in the boat. That's what's happening, you know? That's why they say in the teachings you should practice this like your hair's on fire, because it is. Or you should understand that the metaphor that they give about it, in which they say it's a 3-story building, you're on the 3rd floor partying, and the 1st floor is on fire. That's true. That's really true. Until you let that in and let yourself realize the truth of that, your ability to be motivated and determining to the degree to which is necessary to wake up and realize your true nature cannot happen, because you'll be too busy playing the game. You'll be too busy playing the pleasure game, the security game, you know, the comfort game, you know. If anything's too uncomfortable, people leave. If anything requires too much effort, people leave. If I can't get it the way Amazon offers it to me, I'm not interested. This is insanity. This is insanity. And you have to admit that to the extent that you are living in your mind, you are insane. To the extent that you're engaged and identified with the voice in your head, you are insane. You cannot have a workable relationship with anybody, because everybody has the potential to be a threat to you, even the people closest to you. Isn't it true? You know, when you get pissed off at your children, when you get pissed off at your spouse, when you get pissed off at your parents because you perceive them as a threat to you, right? So there's no security anywhere. There's no safety anywhere. Everything and everybody is a potential threat to you, and that's the life you get to live. No wonder you can't sleep. No wonder you need prescriptions to tranquilize yourself. No wonder you need distractions so you can avoid the experience of yourself. You need distractions so you don't have time to think about you, because that's torture to think about yourself. So, you know, yeah, I was listening to one of the teachers the other day, interesting guy. If you've never heard Fred Davis, did I ever mention Fred?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Interesting. He's a non-dual teacher, and he's an interesting character, right? But turns out, I noticed that I hadn't heard from Fred for a while, right? Turns out that he had some very serious back surgery. And he was out of commission for 1.5 years, almost died, right? Lost a lot of weight. All of a sudden, I saw him show up again on YouTube, right? And I thought to myself, oh, I want to listen to him now. See? I want to listen to him now. And it was very interesting because he wasn't the same Fred. He wasn't the same Fred. And one of the things he was saying in the talk that I was listening to is he's saying, don't be so nice to your students. Don't be so nice. You're not doing them any favor by going along with their bullshit. This is what he was saying. Don't be so nice. Unconditional love may mean that you scream at somebody. It may mean that you tell them that they're full of shit. It may mean that you tell them that they're ignorant. You know? My teacher's teacher, who was a Japanese Zen master, was renowned for how intense he was. You know? Was renowned for how easily he would start to scream at the student and throw them out. Throw them out. Same thing with the Sargadatta, famous non-dual teacher. You know, when he had people that he was teaching, and somebody would start to get shitty, you know, like people with a yes but person that won't give up, right? He would just throw them out. He would just say, get out, get out. I don't have time for you. You're wasting my time, right? But that's unconditional love, because they're trying to tell the person, you're putting up with something I'm not going to put up with. You're putting up with a state of mind that you're living your life in that's causing you suffering, and you want to argue for that. That's crazy. And if you don't want to give up arguing for that, then leave. Go somewhere where somebody's talking the kind of thing you believe. Because it's never going to work. You know, that's the thing about this, is that you have to come to the conclusion that the way you're living your life is never going to work. You will never end up being happy, satisfied, and content. And as you get older and sickness, old age, and death comes, you'll be terrified. You'll be terrified. If you succeed in these teachings and practices, when the time comes, you can relax. And the reason you can relax is because you will have experienced the truth. And the truth is that you've experienced is there is no death. Literally. That's not a belief. There is no such thing as death. The only possible death there could be is the death of who you think you are, but who you think you are never existed in the first place. So what is there to be afraid of, right? If it's true that your true nature is the unborn and the undying, right? What is there to be afraid of? And if you make contact with that and you start to experience that consistently, when death comes, you just relax. You just relax. That's what my teacher did when they took him to the emergency ward when his blood pressure was going through the roof and they were sure he was going to have a stroke any minute because of this kidney failure. And when he was in the emergency room, he's laying on the gurney there, and his tears were coming down his cheeks. And the nurse said to him, "Oh, I'm sorry, are you okay?" And he said, "Am I okay? These are tears of joy. Because what's happening right now is not affecting me at all. I don't have to do anything. You people work on my body. I'll just lay here." You know, that's a real possibility that's available for all of us. That you could, if you do these practices and you give the effort that's necessary to develop these understandings, the day could come when you're given a terminal diagnosis and you smile. You just smile. It's just information. It's just information. One of the things you come to learn through these understandings is that everything's predetermined anyway. Your death is over. Your death has already happened. So why worry? Why worry? They give you a terminal diagnosis, and it's interesting, when they give you a terminal diagnosis, they give it to you as if they're not going to die, you are. It's a joke. It's a joke.
So that's kind of like being like Jesus, like in the face of the worst things possible, you're happy, satisfied, and content.
Yeah, but see, the thing that's interesting, even when Jesus Christ was on the cross, if that really happened, we don't know, it doesn't matter, but even when Jesus Christ was on the cross, he had to deal with his own mind. "Father, why have you forsaken me?" That was his mind, right? But did he stay in that state of mind? No. That passed, right? He didn't stay in that state of mind. He didn't identify with that state of mind. He came back to the truth and was able to relax and let go. All that is the story of Jesus and the story of Buddha are the same story. It's the same story. Waking up and discovering the truth and being able to relax and do what you were here, what you were meant to do here. Do what you were meant to do here. What you were meant to do here is accept the gift. That's what you were meant to do here, is accept the gift. You were given the gift of life. It didn't have to happen. You didn't have to be born. But you act like it doesn't matter. Act like that's irrelevant. You know, the fact that you exist, the fact that you're experiencing a miracle moment to moment, gets ignored. when that's what you're here for, is to enjoy that gift, to enjoy the fact that you're alive until that comes to an end, and then relax and go back into the formless. It's really simple and it's really obvious, but the way the world is in terms of how complicated people have made it, because it's an expression of a mental state, it's an expression of a state of mind, it's an expression of a fear-based operation. That's what this is. That's what everybody's doing. They're expressing fear. They're expressing their intolerance, they're expressing their fear, they're expressing their frustration, right? They're expressing their ignorance. That's what's going on all over the place. And the only reason that's happening is because they don't know any better. Forgive them, for they don't know any better than to do that. They believe that what they've been taught and what they've been conditioned to consider to be true and real, they believe that that's reality. And there's nothing but that. And then you're left with just doing the best you can make to make the best of this until it's over. You're making the best of an unbelievable sacred gift. You're coping with it instead of enjoying it. That's a shame. It's a tragedy. Most human lives are a tragedy. All right, I'll get off my pulpit. All right, have a good night. See you next time.